What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 65 of the Halving Report podcast with myself, your host, Brad Mines. The price of Bitcoin is about 30.5 thousand US dollars. There are about 680 days left until the next Bitcoin halving. We are in extreme fear on the Fear and Greed Index, which could indicate for an excellent time to stack some cheap Satoshis. Although we recommend keeping the majority of your cryptocurrency holdings in Bitcoin, many of you are bound to look beyond Bitcoin and invest into other cryptocurrency projects. One thing I learned in my time in this space is that community is everything, and nobody better emulates that message than today's guest, Joe Vezzani, CEO of Lunar Crush. LunarCrush.com collects activity across social media for Bitcoin, thousands of alts and exchanges, as well as what influencers are posting, and distills it into bite-sized, digestible chunks. So let's get right to it.
Joe, how are you?
I'm good, my man. How are you doing today?
I'm very well. Thank you for coming on to the Halving Report podcast.
Of course, dude. I know we've been trying to get this thing together. Just too crazy out there in the crypto world right now, man. A lot of stuff going on, but I'm glad we got together. Appreciate you reaching out.
Yeah, it's always fun networking in this space. Maybe just for my listeners who may not know who you are, you could give us an introduction for yourself and how you participate in the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency space.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Joe Vezzani. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Lunar Crush. So Lunar Crush is a social intelligence platform. And what that means is that we basically pull together all of the world's social media crypto specific data. So we look at things like Twitter and Reddit and YouTube and all the news, and we're scanning all of that in real time for 3,500 different cryptocurrencies. And what we're trying to do is really help people understand, which projects have a community that is kind of a groundswell of progress over time, because in crypto, it's very different than what it looks like in maybe the traditional markets where, you have, earnings reports over time kind of pushing some of this stuff up. With crypto, it's much more difficult to understand value when there's so much disruption going on. And, it always begs the question, how would you invest in the internet just in general if you could, right? And it's like we're moving into that world. And so with these protocols, it's all about the community. So what we really set out to do is to be a research tool and help kind of create transparency in the cryptocurrency space and also in the NFT space. And so for us, it's been a fun ride for the last 4 years building in this space, man.
Yeah. So you started getting into Bitcoin and cryptocurrency 4 years ago, or you started Lunar Crush 4 years ago?
Started Lunar Crush in 2018. Found out about Bitcoin from my co-founder John in 2015. And he was like, have you seen this thing? And I was like, holy smokes, what is this? It's kind of like intersection between finance and technology and all of the fun things that, I wanted to be a part of. And it, getting into the industry, it was filled with all the, same kind of gamer fun folks that I had in high school. And I was like, okay, these are my people. Like, I'm going to go build something in this space. And really looking at Bitcoin solving the double spend problem, it's like the amount of disruption is like, unprecedented. And, we're just at the beginning of that cycle. So it's been fun to be a part of it. And to, it's crazy thinking 4 years, people are like, oh man, you've been in this space forever. It's like goes by like a flash. So but yeah, I feel very blessed, very lucky to be a part of this space and to be building, even though, the market is just absolutely wrecked right now.
Yeah. I mean, this is this is where fortunes are made, though, right? During the bear market, this is when you show your true colors, you stick around in the community, you stack sats, and network like we're doing right now, right? It's a good time to build. But before we go into all the fun Bitcoin and cryptocurrency topics, maybe you can give us like a little bit of background of, what was your life like before you got into Bitcoin and cryptocurrency?
Yeah. So I came out of school 2008, right when, all of the craziness that was going on, with the mortgage meltdown and the financial crisis then. And, I wanted to go work on Wall Street, and I wanted to go work at Lehman Brothers or Bear Stearns and, some of these names that, were 100-year-old institutions that are no longer there. And, it was a rude awakening coming out of school at that time But at the same time, I think it was a blessing in disguise because I ended up finding a lot of different industries. Went and worked at advertising agencies, in the general ledger finance department, which is like basically like the mailroom of a creative agency. But, was always very curious and kind of wanted to know what the heck it was all about. And, knew that at that point in time, kind of like maybe right now in a little bit of a different way, it's like, if you get a job, you take it. And you just go and you just try to learn and stay curious. And so that's what I did, and just found my way around a bunch of different companies doing a lot of different things. I've always tried to be a little bit of a chameleon when it comes to learning and understanding different stuff, but never, I was never someone that was jumping things very quickly. I always wanted to pay my dues and learn a lot of different stuff. I've worked, at advertising agencies. I've worked, for a building materials company called Owens Corning, and I was, doing sales there. But you learn things like, pricing and channel management, and a lot of amazing experience through things like that. And then had left that to go and try the startup world for the first time back in 2014 with a friend of mine that had an app that he had started, and it was a personal safety app. So, you hold your finger on the screen of the phone, your thumb comes off, and it's a dead man switch. And, they would send, safety to your, exact GPS location. And so I did that for a couple of years, which was awesome. And then left that and ended up going back into the advertising world, which is kind of like, the last thing I thought I would ever do. But as a whole, kind of after you work at a startup, you kind of see the world in a little bit of a different lens. And, always knew that, I was going to be an entrepreneur, but wanted to go and kind of try my hand at a little bit of a bigger organization, and ended up working on all sorts of different clients, but mainly there, Hyundai. So it was one of the larger like automotive companies, and helped a team build out a mobile application that would bring the test drive to you. So worked on a lot of different things, and that's where John and I met and found Bitcoin, and the rest is history for us. So yeah, a lot of different experience along the way, but always, I've always been an investor, always been a trader, always kind of, had my ear to the rail when it comes to that type of stuff. And Bitcoin was like the perfect blend of all of the talents kind of combining into one.
It sounds like you have a lot of great experience to bring to this community, Joe. Now, just talking a little bit about Lunar Crush here, and you said earlier, it's all about the community. Like, how much of a role does the community play versus the fundamentals and the technology and the code and software of a cryptocurrency? Does the community matter that much more, or is these fundamentals kind of have a long-term overplaying effect, you find?
It's varying, right? Like at the end of the day, like these things they're all about the team, like the core team, and can that core team correctly launch something, that is, whether it's open source enough, or whether they can rally, an audience around it, and what does that kind of disruption look like from a protocol level. But it's a combination of a lot of things, right? It's obviously like, we're going through a time right now where, a lot of these projects that were out there, whether they were raising money, whether they were kind of like delivering, quote unquote, on a roadmap or about to launch something, I'm hoping that the days of launching a token and then building a community and building a product into it are over. Because we did the exact opposite, right? Like we built a brand, we built a product. And then once we kind of had that audience and had those fundamentals, then, we went out and we kind of built a utility into that when we already had utility, right? And so you kind of want to overlay that on the community. But kind of going back to the original question of, where does this kind of sit in the, the research, I guess, stack when you're looking at these different projects. And so, for us, it was a missing piece, especially within crypto, and then definitely within NFTs, of you have to be looking at the community, and you have to be looking at the people that are out there that are talking about what's going on. And, if you even believe in a sliver of metaverse, you have to understand that, we are all living online, and we're all out there talking, and it's social discourse is a place where people go and kind of signal what they're looking for, what they're trying to understand. And so for us, we wanted to make sense of those communities, because that's the way that all of the customer or all the users and all the people out there were identifying information. They were going to places like Twitter or Reddit to try and figure out what the heck was going on, but they were seeing a very small percentage of, the actual noise when they're just looking at their personal feed. So I would say it is one of the vital stops along the research, railroad that you need to take when you're trying to understand and make, an investment, whether it's, in an NFT or, whether it's, in a protocol. It's just we're trying to protect people really, versus like a lot of the things that you see out there today of a lot of hype and not delivering anything. And sometimes, that means looking at a community over time and looking at it over a year, right? Is that community growing? Is it shrinking? Can I then kind of overlay that on, wallet addresses, and what does that look like? And, it's actually a lot easier to create, active wallets and have a lot of wallets on your project than it is to sustain community over a long period of time. So it just needs to be a stop where everyone kind of looks at each project and understand what that community looks like.
And what kind of metrics are you guys showing right now? Like since this entire market crash that we've been seeing the last little bit here, what coins are kind of standing out to you that have this strong community or showing strong metrics on your website?
A lot of them, actually. A lot of the layer one projects, people are, crypto is, inherently bullish, right? Like we have a sentiment, like an average sentiment metric, and it's pretty much always bullish, right? It's like we kind of joke about it because it's like it's one of the things out there with sentiment, quote unquote. It's not so much are people bullish or are they bearish? It's how many people are out there, what's the velocity of the way that they're talking, and where are they at? And so it's actually kind of interesting because for the first time, the overall broader market is definitely more bearish, and we're seeing a ton of market volume as well out there. And so I think it's like until we see some of that stuff kind of fall off a little bit and we see market volumes kind of coming down and we see that sentiment kind of leveling off, there's going to be a lot of volatility. But from our standpoint, we're out there, we're trying to just provide the cleanest data set and the most spam-free, least amount of bots possible. So when you're going through Lunar Crush and you're looking at the feeds or you're looking at a specific project, you're getting a clear view of what's real and what's not. And so for us, it's not always out there trying to necessarily make a call on a specific project or protocol or token or Bitcoin even. It's just, hey, we're out here to show you the facts. And, we know everyone's strategy is completely different. We're not financial advisors, we're an analytics company. And so what we're trying to do is just provide people with the cleanest set of data so that they can make the most educated decision possible, because everyone's got a different strategy.
And what do you think the recent downfall, what do you think the catalyst is? Are we in a full bear market with Bitcoin? Has it underperformed this cycle, do you think? Or what are your thoughts around that?
It's a tough one. The market is the market is the market. And it's, what I mean by that is, it is just a bunch of different macroeconomic factors that are getting put together along with, the current, sentiment out there around those, right? And it's a combination of what people kind of hear in the media versus what the actual data says. And so when you look at what's out there right now and you look at, a lot of the, the direct investment into the economy that the government made, back in 2008, when they released the TARP programs, those companies had to pay back that money, right? And so that money was lent, even though they still ended up kind of picking winners and losers, which I wasn't a fan of. They did at least put the guardrails in place that, the taxpayers actually ended up making some money on some of the loans that were put out there. Now, the evaporation of value that happened on top of that, does not, equate to some of that payback. But at the same time, at least some of that money got reclaimed back. Now, what they did this time, with COVID, which, it's very difficult situation, very tough to make a call there. But, by making a direct investment and injecting capital into the economy without having a plan to kind of pull it out, we're seeing the effects of that now, right? And so, even though, I talk a lot about Bitcoin and some of my maxi friends aren't as stoked on it, but Bitcoin really hasn't lived up to the, systematic hedge, narrative that was out there, that I know a lot of those folks were out there selling to some of these pension funds and some of these other, on TV talking about some of this stuff. But all that means is, we're earlier than, people even think. with Bitcoin and with crypto in general. And if it's still going to kind of act almost like a traded tech stock at this point, based on where its market cap is at and based on the people that are out there, that means that there's a lot of opportunity still. And it means that we're just in a trough of a larger overall like bull market that at this too shall pass, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But I do think that it was just a bummer with what happened with UST and with Terra.
Mhm.
I know a lot of folks over there, and it was kind of like the darling of the crypto space. Like anyone that was like, I think pretty into like the space and even a lot of the projects, like holding their treasuries there. So it was, I'm very, I'm holding off on judgment on exactly what happened until we get all of the facts. But if it does turn out to be some sort of like George Soros like attack on something, it's a bummer, because it's, why not use that energy and time and money to create something, for a broader group of people versus maybe yourself. But that's just the world we live in. And so if you're not protected against that, like you're going to get taken advantage of. So I would say a lot of the people that are out there in the space right now, just keep building, like,
Mhm. Mhm.
keep pushing code, keep pushing services, create the utility that needs to be out there. That needs to be real, and think about it through the lens of, the product or service that you're building, that, you're utilizing blockchain technology to make yourself more competitive versus blockchain and Web3 and tokens being the product.
You mentioned that you had some Bitcoin maxi friends that maybe upset to hear maybe that Bitcoin isn't that inflation hedge or what they expect it to be at this time. What are your thoughts around maximalism? Does it have any merit to preach this Bitcoin only narrative? Maybe we are really earlier in the space, and maybe we will see most coins trend to zero in comparison to Bitcoin. Is that a potential? Like, how much merit does the maximalism narrative, like how much merit does that have to you?
I think when you think about the token economy and DeFi and everything out there, that most of the projects that exist today will not exist into the future, but there will be many more projects in the future than exist today. And I think that, I could probably argue that Bitcoin has benefited more in the last 2 years from kind of the DeFi explosion that's out there than the DeFi explosion has benefited from Bitcoin, albeit the DeFi explosion would never have happened had Bitcoin not existed. So Bitcoin is like, Bitcoin is the big bang. Like that is the moment. Without that, nothing exists, at least right now. But I think a lot of the folks that have been, Bitcoin maximalists, and they still are right now, it's the same as a lot of the folks that are kind of dunking on crypto. You're seeing a little bit more of Bitcoin maxis out there kind of talking about like only Bitcoin. But I just have to believe that even someone like Satoshi, who obviously was a disruptor, was an innovator, like I feel like they would have pushed Bitcoin out to the world, and they'd probably be on to the next thing, and they probably would be building some sort of other protocol that solves some sort of other things. They're an innovator and they're an entrepreneur. And I just kind of think it's wild that you think that, or anyone could think that just Bitcoin alone is going to create the same sort of disruption that the rest of the market can kind of bring. And why limit the double spend problem to just Bitcoin, right? Like Bitcoin doesn't disrupt, it doesn't disrupt, like the banks in the same way if it's just Bitcoin. But I think that there's a lot of opportunity to build on top of Bitcoin that has yet to be, has yet to come into fruition. I'm paying close attention to a lot of the different layer ones that are looking at building on Bitcoin, like something like Stacks, right? Where it's, I know they're out there a lot of times kind of fighting the same type of fight, but there's just an explosion in a renaissance of finance. And it's just a better way to launch something is through a token economy. And a lot of this stuff is going to fail because it's early days. Like most startups fail, like a venture investor, when they invest in a startup, they think 95% of the time it's going to zero, maybe 4% of the time I get my money back. And like, 0.8% of the time I get 2 to 10x, and then like 6 sigma, like 0.0001, I get a unicorn. And it's like tokens are kind of the same thing, right? Like if you're 25 and you live in Singapore or somewhere else, like why are you not just launching a token? Like why are you building like a Delaware C Corp? Whatever. It's just a better way to build stuff. And so I would just say like, they need to go a little easy on it, but there's like, I forget what the name of the title of the thing was back in Bitcoin 2020, but it's like the toxicity is not good. And someone that's building a token economy that's trying to build on Web3 in a way is much closer representation of your vision of the world in the future than someone that is doing backdoor deals and getting the best pricing on some sort of leverage product in a steakhouse in New York City. Super long-winded answer of answering that, sorry.
No, it's good. I like hearing the different perspectives there, because I just for me, just from my point of view, it just seems like a really loud voice. Obviously there's a huge voice in every corner of cryptocurrency. It's almost like competing religions against each other, but I keep just seeing this maximalism narrative out there. And so I mean, and as being like the Bitcoin guy for my friends and family, and like how I tell people that they ask me, should I invest in Dogecoin or should I get Uniswap? Like, it's, for me, it's like I really only feel comfortable maybe saying Bitcoin or Ethereum. So
Totally. And I'm like, I consider myself a Bitcoin. Like I consider myself someone that would say the same thing. It's like, hey, how do I get into it? It's like, I'm glad that NFTs are out there now. And it's like a lot of people's first step into crypto now is through an NFT. It's not through Bitcoin, where it used to be that. But at the same time, like, yeah, like, if I have a friend that's reaching out and he would be like, or they'd be like, hey, what do I invest in? Like, there's no chance I would be like, hey, go grab a bunch of dough, unless it's like $5 worth, or like, you got to do whatever. You're always saying like, go grab yourself some Bitcoin and just learn and just put like literally the smallest amount in ever and just start following it. But it's always starts with Bitcoin. It always is. And I hope it always stays that way.
What do you think the biggest thing to happen in this cycle has been? Has it been nation state adoption or something else? Are you expecting other big things to come? Like within this cycle anyways?
Yeah. I mean, that was a huge moment, for sure. And, Bitcoin, like as a better money, I think has always been, like the hope and dream. Obviously it's like, you can argue the volatility of a lot of like, smaller nation states that are out there, and different fiat currencies is, they're getting inflated so heavily that like Bitcoin's still a better answer, with how volatile it is, which it's like, it's kind of the, it's like, why wouldn't, like, that's the cool part about like the fungibility of crypto is, it's like, how cool would it be if like you had a credit card tied to like your ETF that was invested in the S&P, and you just like spend, it's like, you want to be invested at all times. Like, why wouldn't you want to be as exposed as possible 100% of the time? And so, I feel like the vision of that is getting closer with the advancements. But yeah, nation state is huge. Like actually having someone say that this is money that can be spent. But I mean, I think in a broader sense, like it has to be, like if you can consider NFTs part of this, part of this expansion. I mean, it's NFTs. It's like, this is a completely different way for humans to organize now around value and money and what they like. It's like there used to be country clubs, and there still will be, but like, owning a Bored Ape is like the coolest country club or social club or whatever you want to call it, like, of the future. And it's like, what the optionality that opens up to have people from all over the world, different backgrounds, different things that they're interested in, come together and like, meet on, some of these people aren't even docs. They're like some sort of avatar, but they know that if you have one of those things, then like you think like them and like you believe in the same things that they want to like believe in. And like, man, when you really think about it, it's like, whether it's clubs or churches or whatever it's else, people are constantly congregating around like, other people that are trying to push the world in the direction that they want to push it in. And so, I mean, it's just NFTs like are here to stay, and they're here to stay in a really big way. And they potentially could, in some sense, be much bigger than the rest of the crypto market.
Right. But you see Bitcoin as always staying as like the number one market cap?
Market cap, I think it has to. I think it has to stay there, right? I think it has to stay at least close. I mean, I think it's like when you think about the rest of the market combined where it's at, I mean, that's a larger market cap than Bitcoin currently, but like as like the mainstay, it's like you're always trying to earn more Bitcoin, right? Like that's the goal. Like the goal is to have as much as you can, as safe as you can, is in as much custody as you can, that you feel safe to understand the technology and like where you want to be. I still think it's fine to be custodied by other people. It's like, if that's, you know, if you're someone that doesn't really know even how to like text correctly, then yes, you might not want to be holding a paper wallet. But you know, I mean, Bitcoin being unchanging, that's like my favorite part about it, is like how it changes value so much, but nothing's changed about it. It's like that's the mission. And like, you know, people, like you go to Bitcoin conferences, and like, I mean, you see the same person that's got like the microphone almost like chanting to like Satoshi as like, you know, this mythical figure, like especially with this washout in the market right now, it's like people are like, how low can it go? I go, most of the people that are still holding that haven't sold would rather you cut their arm off than take their Bitcoin. So like, name another asset class that's like that. Zero. So it's like Bitcoin will be, you know, as long as the market is here, Bitcoin will be here, and it will most likely be the largest single piece of it.
And what about plans for Lunar Crush? Do you have anything else in the works? What are you guys working on over there?
All day, every day. That's all we do is build.
Mm-hmm.
We've launched a lot of fun stuff in the last month. We're working really hard on it's difficult, man, to visualize all this different type of data, you know, especially doing it in like a time series way on a graph. Like it's not normal to, you know, a lot of other projects out there, it's like, hey, we have price and we're going to put price on this graph. And it's very simple. And it's like when there's a new market, you just kind of toss it in. With social, it's a different problem to solve because, you know, it's like something doesn't go viral the second it's posted, right? It's like it takes time, or someone goes and like grabs a post maybe from a year ago and suddenly that starts to grow again. And it's like, well, wait, like what do you do with like the data from a year ago? Does that adjust, or is that data from now? And so look backs and all these different things, it's like we kind of created a way to you know, we created kind of the baseline for understanding what social is. And so for us, it's like we're just constantly reimagining what our interface looks like and the way that we want people to come in. And so we've even recently kind of adjusted to this kind of feed interface where we're just kind of serving you the information that's contextual and relevant to you at all times, or you can look at the entire market. And so we've been very focused after we kind of went through this recent rapid growth to say, hey, let's relook at what we have currently and kind of revamp that. So as we've kind of finally gotten through a lot of that stuff, we've got some really fun stuff coming up where we're about 2 weeks away from having Lunar Crush for NFTs. So
really?
We aggregate all the world's data for all the different cryptocurrencies. Now, starting with Ethereum, we're going to be looking at all the different projects that are out there and trying to understand what those communities look like. Which is, you know, when you think about a cryptocurrency, you know, and we came up with this term of like, without a community, there is no crypto, right? And like community is a big part of the value of what creates a project, more so than kind of the traditional markets. And then, you know, when you think about NFTs, it is 100% community. And what is that community? Is it vibrant? Is it full? Are there more people there? What's the demand for that? And so, you know, as people are thinking about communities around NFTs, we want to provide them with the same sort of, you know, social metrics and data that people are used to and trusted from us on the crypto side. We want to provide that on the NFT side as well. So we're really excited to be rolling that out here pretty soon. And then, you know, we're constantly innovating, you know, on a data side, on the data side of what we're doing. And so you're going to see some really fun stuff from us around how, you know, if someone had to pose to you, how would you kind of clean up a lot of the spam or the bots across things like Twitter that Elon's talking about right now? We're going to have some really cool fixes for that and some solves for that here in the future too. So I'd say those things kind of in the short term are some stuff to look out for from us. And then, you know, it's a lot of partnerships and a lot of other projects that we want to work with. And for us, it's always about showcasing, the rest of the community and the people that are working hard and building. And so we've got a lot to come from that side as well to help some of these projects really get out there that deserve it.
It's a lot of data to process, man.
Yeah. No, couple million pieces of content every single day, almost 1 billion social engagements that are out there. It's a lot of data to siphon through, and it's like it takes an army. And so we want to bring that army together in the most decentralized and true to Satoshi way possible, I guess I could say.
Joe, when you're not in the realm of cryptocurrency, what else do you like to do?
Surfing, man. I'm a surfer and a runner. Surfing a little bit less these days, a little bit more running, but I got a plan to get back to the surfing. I'm here in Southern California, and it's one of the best spots to just cruise out and meet with your friends and take some time out in the ocean. It's my happy place.
Have you ever been to Canada?
I have been to Canada. Yes. Windsor was my first experience in Canada back in the day. And then, been to Vancouver, been to Toronto. Beautiful. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, man. You got to come back. Do you have any favorite books or podcasts in the space?
I used to listen. It's funny. It's like once you kind of get into the space and you're like the one that's like creating a lot more of the content, you're not listening as much to everyone in the space. But I find that too. Yeah. But it's just because there's only so much that you can do. And so you end up, there's like, especially as someone that's got a product that's literally like pulling down all of the content into one. So, I use Lunar Crush. I'm a user of our platform. But I like a lot of the different podcasters. I haven't listened to him as much lately, like I said, because I haven't been in the space, but like I used to listen to Pomp all the time when I first started kind of getting into the space. I loved the way he approached stuff. And he was very down to earth. Bang. Yeah, he's very down to earth. Those early ones, man. I got to get back into it. And then, cool. I'm out there, listening to a lot of the, I love Tim Ferriss. He's always been a huge, inspiration of mine, at least a little bit outside of the space, but he's definitely gotten more into it. You could tell over the, especially over the pandemic, I think he was a little bit worried about his portfolio. He was bringing on Kevin Rose. He's bringing all these people on and learning more about it. But crypto is just, there's nowhere that you can go where it's not starting to kind of seep in, right? And the disruption's happening. And so I think over time, it's like, you're just going to see it everywhere.
Joe, I'm going to thank you for your time and helping me make this happen. I'm going to open it up to you if you have any final comments. If not, maybe you can just let us know where to go and follow you and learn more.
Yeah, no, lunarcrush.com. You can go there to just kind of cruise around. You don't even need to log in if you don't want to see, don't want to, and you can see a lot of stuff, or you can log in. And we have different levels of access on there. And so basically you get yourself a little bit of Lunar token, you put it in your wallet, and then you'll get and unlock access to a lot more data. So lunarcrush.com. You can check us out on Twitter. We're constantly posting what we're seeing on the platform, and we're distilling that down. So at Lunar Crush on Twitter. And then my personal Twitter for anyone that wants to listen to all my musings is just at Joe Vez, Joe, Joevezz. Happy to DM me, and if you got any questions about the space or want to learn or be a part of it, I'm always there to help anyone. And yeah, man, thank you for having me on and for being someone that's helping make the translation for everyone in the space. So I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Joe.
Thank you all for listening to the Halving Report podcast. Please like and subscribe to the show, share it with a friend, check out our show notes below for more about our guests and some sweet crypto coupons, and we'll see you back next time.